And we are live. Can you see us, Denise?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Awesome. Well, bonjour, beautiful Facebook fam. We want to say good morning to you. Happy Wednesday to you because this is actually your wake up call to shine. That's right. We are on the set of A Little CPR with Mirtha Dubois, produced by Win World Influencers Network, which is actually powered by this absolutely beautiful and creative woman named Irene Pro. Now, now we teamed up because we share the same passion. You see, we both desire to help individuals such as you live life with definition, purpose, and clarity. So you can do more, have more, and be more. Yep, that's right. So if you're sitting there or standing and thinking to yourself, moi, well, I say, why not you? Who am I? My name is Mirtha Dubois. I am what some refer to as the life strategist expert. And I operate under my business name, Mirtha Dubois Coaching and Consulting. I offer women numerous platforms for them to share their message in their voice, right? So platforms such as becoming an author or workshops and retreats where we deep dive and find better ways to live your life. Because my thought is life is not the gift. Living your life to the full potential is the actual gift because it just recycles, right? It keeps giving and gifting, right? So we also have entrepreneurship programs that offer extra income and of course a little CPR with Mirtha Dubois podcast, like you were watching here this morning. And I trust that I have personally, trust me, I have personally taken advantage of all those platforms because I believe in being the product of my product, right? Well, away from all of that, I am going to get out of the way so that we can get ready to educate, to be educated, to be elevated, and to be empowered by our special guest today, Denise. And I'm going to say just Kay because I don't want to mess it up. When she comes on, she'll share her last name to the fullest. And our topic today is life after narcissism, right? So, bonjour, Denise.
Hello, love. Thank you so much for having me share this message and share this energy with you. I'm so honored to be here with your audience and talk about this topic. And it's Kabbalisticus, so it is a mouthful, but I am perfectly fine with Denise K because it is a tongue twister, but it's Kabbalisticus. Thank you for having me. Do you want me to just dive right in and talk about life
You know
after
what,
narcissism?
Denise? Go ahead. I mean, Denise is actually from South Florida. For those of you who don't know her, she raised two children, and she is a women's transformational coach. She's also an author and a speaker, and she's got a very powerful message because she lived a very powerful life, right? Because the topic that we're talking about today is about power, right, Denise?
Yes, yes. So just a little background for your audience, Martha, is that I was in a 22-year marriage with a narcissist. So for those of you who aren't quite clear on what narcissism is, it's basically everything is about me, nothing is about you. So when you refer to somebody as like very selfish, self-centered, or if you know somebody who just uses people, right? There's no meaning to the relationship. Those are narcissistic traits. And we all know somebody like that, right? Whether it's a boss, a coworker, a family, a friend, or even a spouse or ex-spouse. So for 22 years, I was in that type of a relationship with somebody that I have two children with. And along with that came a lot of traumas and dramas. And the biggest trauma was in 2008 when he decided that he was going to try to take his life with our 14-year-old daughter in the next room, which changed everything for us as a family. And that was the day that I told him I wanted a divorce, because I had finally had enough. You know, we get to that point where we're like, enough is enough. I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
And so we make that move. And divorce is so difficult, even on the best circumstances. It's hard. And so that's a big decision to say that out loud.
Wow.
So anyway, long story short, I didn't leave in 2008, even though I said I was. It didn't happen until 2011. And then that was coming here to North Carolina. So I moved from South Florida here to North Carolina, try to start all over again. But it was the first time that, Martha, that I was on my own. So these relationships are very codependent. So I was very dependent on him for financial reasons. And I was on my own for the first time financially, like get a job and pay the bills. And it was like, so scary.
Wow.
So after 3 months of that, I went back to him, to Florida. And of course, you know how that always goes. It lasts about 5 minutes. So I came here back to North Carolina in 2012. And that's when I made my life here. And through all of the fun stories of me dating, getting back out and dating after 20 something years,
yes.
And realizing like I kept attracting the same type of person as my ex, and going, you know, I wasn't clear, Martha, on what I wanted, but I was clear on what I didn't want. And I didn't want to repeat the past. And so with that came Denise realizing that Denise was the common denominator here. And so that took me on a journey of 18 months of self-healing and self-awareness, and healing all the childhood wounds and all of the stuff that came with why I attracted this toxic relationship in the first place. And so now fast forward, I just got married a little less than 2 months ago in a healthy relationship for the first time in my life. My life is amazing on all levels. And that was simply because I chose me as a priority. I chose to love me to the fullest, and went into the healing and really just, you know, Martha, like the healing journey takes a lot of courage and bravery to face.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Face your crap, face the stuff that you've been avoiding all of those years.
And we don't want to because it's just too much sometimes. Yes. But we don't realize that, you know, not facing it is even worse for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It creates more of the thing that we're trying to avoid and resist and put under the rug and just try to ignore. And so what happens is life has this way of trying to teach us, to try to show us like, no, you have to learn from this experience. You have to learn from the pains that you've been through. Otherwise, I'm going to keep showing up to let you know that I'm here for a reason.
Yes.
You can't ignore me.
That's right. That's right. Cannot be ignored. I love it.
Yeah. So that's just a little cliff note of the background that I come from and where I am now. And now I'm able to share this beautiful journey with other women and men to show them, like, if I did it, so can you. I am no different than anybody.
That's right.
And so my experience, 22 years is a long time. My experience of being in such a toxic relationship has no bearing on what my future is or what it was looking like. And it was simply just a choice of saying, I want something better for myself. I don't want to repeat the past. I want to move forward. And like I said, like I wasn't clear on what I did want, because, you know, if you've been in a toxic relationship or a series of toxic relationships, you don't know what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's where I was like, I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want. And I didn't want that ever again.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's interesting that when we are little girls, right, we dream of the McDreamies of the world, right? We want this relationship that's out of this world. You want to feel so loved. And that's basically what we're looking for, is to be loved. Yes. And then we get attracted to people who give us the idea that we're going to be loved. But then they turn that around and you start to question, well, is this really love?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this the background of it? You know, like the things that we don't see. But is this how everybody else is living?
Yeah. And that's the thing about narcissistic people. You just nailed it, Mirtha, because in the beginning, they are charming and charismatic. And I always talk about my own experience. So I aim my conversation to women, but men go through this too, where the woman is the narcissistic person. So in the beginning, they're very charming and charismatic. And everything is about the other person. So for example, if Mirtha and I were in a relationship and I was the narcissist, everything would be about Mirtha, how was your day? And just the attention would be focused on you. And you would feel so important and so valued that you misconstrued this as somebody loves me, right? So flowers being given to you and what's your favorite restaurant, that's where we're going to go. And all of the attention and energy is pointed to you. And so you are in this like delightful energy of feeling so loved and valued. And what happens is then it slowly starts to, in very subtle ways, it starts to turn around to where now nothing is about you and everything is about me. And this is the manipulation. That's why I call them master manipulators. And where you look and you're like, this is not the man that I fell in love with. This is not the dream that I was living. And the more it shifts to be about him and his needs, the selfishness, the self-centered part of him, the more you, the other person in the relationship, starts to feel like you're just there. You have no meaning, you have no value, you have nothing in this relationship. You're just there, you're there to serve. Yeah. So you nailed it. You nailed it.
Wow, wow. You start to live as if you have no value.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes that's after marriage, after kids, after a mortgage. You know, you're invested in this relationship. So you try and try and try. You try to hold on to what you had before. Things are going to get better, and more time has gone by. More births, more, you know what I mean? More investment in the relationship.
Yes.
And then you're in your 40s or in your 50s or more, and you look back and you're like, I can't do this anymore. I've completely lost who I am.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking of my own, because I went through a divorce, and I'm thinking of what I went through in what I call a normal relationship, right? Where there was no none of that power play, not in that sense anyway, not in the narcissist sense. But I can only imagine, with that added in, how much more overwhelmed you get and frustrated you get, because it just seems like this, it's like a battle that you have to keep fighting
every day. Yes, it is. It's a battle with the other person, and then there's a battle inside of yourself, because what narcissistic people tend to do is gaslight the other person. And so gaslighting is, I call it the ultimate manipulation. It's where, you know, there's a movie, 1944 movie called Gaslight, and it's where the husband is, so he starts to isolate his wife into the house, and then he's flickering the lights, and she's telling him these things are going on, and he's like, no, honey, no, you're imagining things, you're sick or whatever. And that's what gaslighting is. So now the other person starts to doubt herself. She starts to think, am I crazy? And so this is where, like you were just saying, where it's you lose yourself, you lose your value, and then you don't even realize, like, you have this battle inside of yourself along with battling this other person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So share with us a little bit of why you believe this person does what they do.
That's a great question.
Or what they do.
Yes, that is such a great question. I get this question a lot, Martha, because there's the confusion, right? How did this person end up like this? So in my experience and with the years of me doing this, I believe that there's two ways somebody can turn into this narcissistic person. So let's go back to birth. Let's go back to when we're born. None of us are born this way. God makes us, he creates us to be emotionally healthy. So think of a baby, right? A baby doesn't judge. You know, let's talk about like a 2 or 3-year-old. A baby isn't judgmental of themselves or of other people. A baby could, you know, a little 2-year-old could wake up with a little saggy diaper and a green booger coming out of his or her nose, and they're not judging themselves. They're not going, oh gosh, I gotta fix this. No, they're just being who they are.
Yes.
So they're happy, they're loving.
Yes.
Babies are trusting. Babies are truthful, and they're forgiving. Now, so here's what happens. So this is how we are all born, with emotionally healthy bodies. Now, in life, there's one or two ways that a narcissist turns into a narcissist. One could be that they go through a lot of traumas and dramas, abuse during their childhood, right? And so with abuse, there's you don't matter, you're not enough, right? And there's neglect, right? And so the abused child feels like I'm nothing. So they decide somewhere along the line in growing up, maybe teenage years, whatever, there's this fork in the road where they say, no, I am going to make everything about me. I am. And so they put on this persona that, you know, like grandiose narcissism is the one who, I have a house and a boat, and they're just like this over the top, you know, type of personality. The other way that this could happen is, so they don't come from abuse, they were put on a pedestal. So maybe the child was an only child. Maybe the mom and dad couldn't have children, and then they either adopted or by a miracle, they were able to have a child. And so they dote on this baby so much so that they put this baby on such a high pedestal that everything is about the child.
Baby.
And so their whole life has been, everything has been about me. Why would I change that? Everything's about me.
Right.
So that's my belief, that there's two ways that this personality is created. Either the abuse or the pedestal. And there's always this fork in the road, because yes, there's plenty of people who come from abusive backgrounds that chose not to be like this, right? And there's plenty of scenarios where somebody was an only child or put on a pedestal and still came out humble and loving.
Right. Yeah. Do you believe this type of person, the narcissist, can they ever really love somebody else?
No.
Can they change?
No to both. They're incapable of love, because the first thing about loving somebody else is you first have to love yourself. So for people like you and me, Martha, where we have children and we love them so much, there's the reason why we love them so much, because there's love inside of us to give out. You have to have the love inside of you to give out. Right? And what was the other question? Can they love? Oh, can they change?
Can they change?
Well, you first have to know that there's a problem in order to change the problem. And narcissistic people don't believe there's a problem. So what they do is they constantly shift blame on other people. So if in a relationship, two people, and someone addresses to the narcissistic person and says, you know, you do this, you do that, then the narcissistic personality would say, well, that's not my fault. That's your fault that I do this.
Yes. So they believe there's a problem, but the problem is with you. It's not with them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Which is that's very interesting and sad, you know, that that we live in a society, and you bring up a few great mentionables. One, you talk about not having clarity of what you wanted, but you knew what you did not want.
Yeah.
Right. And then, such as the case with us when we are dealing with life itself, we're like, and sometimes we kind of settle, for example, of things that we're not sure if we want it, but we're not sure we want to say no to it either. So we kind of just settle for what's in front of us, right? So would you say then that it is important for us to come to terms with what we do want? Like, what is it that we're looking for, so that we can kind of cross out and move away the things that we don't want. So when we see it, do you think it's possible that if we do this, that we can now start to get out of those type of relationships a little bit quicker? Say no before it gets, too bad, for example.
Yes, clarity is power. Clarity is power. So when you know exactly what you want, whether it's within yourself or a relationship or a job or whatever, then this is how the universe starts to line things up to bring it to you.
Yes.
Right. But if you're wishy-washy, I always like to use this example. When here in North Carolina, we have Jersey Mike's as our sub shop, right? When you walk into Jersey Mike's, you don't say, hey, I want a sandwich. That's very broad in general. You're very specific on what sandwich you want. You want the Italian, you want the certain size, you want it on a certain bread. You want to take off the mayo, you want to add the mustard. You're very detailed in what you want. God can't bring you what you want if you're wishy-washy. He has to know what exactly you want. So clarity is power. The more detailed you are about what you want, the quicker and the faster and he'll bring it to you.
Yes. We go in a sandwich shop and we ask for a sandwich, right?
Can't do it. You can't do it,
That is funny. A lot of people, when I go to Starbucks, I have this drink that I go down and I say, this is what I want. I want this added. I want that. And so, people that go with me into Starbucks are like, man, you kind of know you got to know what you want, because it's a coffee shop. I can't go in and say, I just want a cup of coffee. Well, what type of coffee do you want? Do you want latte? Do you want milk? Do you not want cream? Do you want sugar? Do you want low fat? There's all kinds of, and I believe I'm simple. My friends would probably say, my children would probably say, no, that's not the case. But I think I'm simple. And so life gives us all these add-ons, all these extras, all these features, right? And sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming. But it also teaches us in that to be that specific. Right? Because we cannot go and be like, oh, well, I just want a salad. Even something as simple. Let's talk about water. Water is simple, right? Clear, no taste, simple. But guess what? Now we got spring water, we got purified water, we got room temperature water, we got cold. Like, I love the fact that you say clarity is king, because if we are not specific down to the detail, even when, doing our New Year's resolution, they tell us to be very specific, right? Be very clear. When you're asking, if you're a Christian and you're asking for a blessing, you got to be very specific and very clear as to what you are looking for. Otherwise, if you're a genie and you want to grant a wish, right? Now you might say, oh, no, I didn't mean it. But hey, you've already said this is what you want. Right. So we have to be, I love the fact that you say clarity is king, because we have to be so clear so that we can now talk about it. We can be about it. We can show about it. Because if we're not clear, what is that quote? If you are not for something or up for something, then you fall for anything. So we will just have all kinds of things thrown at us.
Yes.
We're not clear.
Yes.
And the sad part is we will embrace whatever it is that is being thrown at us.
Right. Because God always says yes to us. Yes to what? Yes to whatever we say that we want.
Yes.
So if we're not clear, if we're wishy-washy, then we get wishy-washy results. If
Yes.
we're like,
oh, I just want to wishy-washy results. Ooh, family, did you hear that? If you are not clear, you're going to receive wishy-washy results. And then we want to complain about the result.
There you go.
But it's from you.
He's just delivering what you asked for.
Yeah.
So everything is energy. Everything is energy. And I always like to talk about narcissistic relationships as there's these two energies. There's the one that's the narcissistic. So he's very selfish, him or her, very selfish, everything is about my needs. Well, yes. Who's he going to match up with? He's not going to match up with somebody of the same caliber. Everything's about my needs because they would clash, right? So the matchup is everything's about my needs and my selfishness and what I want versus the other person is like, how can I help you? What can I do for you? So we call these people pleasers, right? Enablers, doormats even. I'm not trying to insult anybody. This is just what it is, right?
It. Yes.
Somebody with no boundaries, right? Somebody with no boundaries. And so the other person in the relationship is like, how can I serve you? And so the narcissistic person is like, oh yeah, this is the type of person that I want in my life, the type. And so that's why most of the time, in my experience, what I see, there's the empathic person and the narcissistic person. They go together. I like to say hand in hand, like peanut butter and jelly, because they are such a match because the empathic person, she or he loves to see the good in people. And what they generally do is they ignore the bad in people, or they feel like they can fix the bad in that other person. And so I don't call this, but it's called mother energy. And mother energy is she loves too much, she gives too much, she does too much. And that's the perfect person for a narcissistic personality to attract to, because they want that person who loves too much, does too much, gives too much, because that person is loving, giving, and doing for other people, i.e. the narcissistic person, and nothing is given back to her. So this is where you are left feeling depleted, right? Empty.
Yeah.
Where's my value? Who am I in this life? Right? Because I've been his wife or I've been their mom. I have no identity of my own anymore. So who am I now? And that's where the confusion comes in, and that's where the wishy-washy, the unclarity comes in, and it eventually gets to a point where that person is like, I feel so empty, I feel so depressed that I can't do this anymore. And then they eventually leave. And bless you for doing that, because you deserve more.
Wow. And so what would you say, and that's great. I believe the clarity part becomes very important also, because a lot of women who go through those types of relationships, they start to ask, why do I keep falling for the same type over and over and over again?
Because they're in mother energy.
Because we're giving too much, we're loving too much, and we're doing too much.
Yes. And so when you think of mother, so remember, like energy attracts like energy. So if somebody's in mother energy, who is she going to attract? Child energy, because mother and child go together. And when you think of narcissistic personalities, that is child energy. They pout when they don't get their way. Everything is about them. Like, just think of a spoiled little brat child, right? Hands across the chest. You don't do anything for me. And the more you do for that child, the more they complain that you don't do for them. So that's why she's in mother energy.
Would you say during that time, though, when these kids start to talk back and say you're not doing enough, do you think that's like, for us parents, do you think that's like a wake-up call, like, hey, let me take a look at this. What am I giving? You know,
Yeah.
what are they receiving? Why don't they see it? Would you think that that's a wake up call to kind of shift their way of giving, so to speak, or their way
Yeah.
of
And
mothering?
yeah. So where we want to be, even when we're parenting our children, is we want to be in woman energy.
Mm,
And so woman energy, she has healthy boundaries in her relationships. In fact, she's so much in woman energy that people know what to expect from her, what they can ask for, what they can get away with, right? Because when you think of mother energy, she's the type of person that, oh, I have such a busy day today. Hey, can you take this to the post office for me? And what does mother energy do? Oh yeah, sure. I'll take care of that too.
yes.
My
Yes.
load is already overflowing, but I'm
Yeah.
going to take on more.
Mm,
So woman energy has very healthy boundaries. She says, I would love to, but I don't have time. I have to take care of X, Y, and Z today. My
mhm.
plate is full. Either you do it or another time or whatever. So even when we're parenting our children, we want to be in woman energy. And so everything in that relationship that we're talking about spousal applies the same. So yes, the boundaries. So if your child is saying, you don't do anything for me, and you know for a fact you do a lot, well then, okay, I don't do anything for you. So let me cut everything that I do for you. And then
That's
let's
it.
see.
That's it. That's it. But
Then
you
let
gotta
me
be
see.
strong, though. You gotta be strong,
Yes.
because coming from that mother energy, you know, we tend to feel bad, you know,
Right.
because we're not giving, you know, as much, or we're not being recognized as giving that much. So we start to feel guilty, right? We
Yes.
start to feel a little selfish, and we need to find a way to get out of this mindset that we have about ourselves.
Yes, you just nailed it, Martha. So mother energy feels guilty about everything.
Yeah.
She feels bad, like you just said. I feel bad if I don't take the extra thing to the post office when my load is already overflowing. She feels bad if she doesn't do too much, give too much, right? And love too much.
Yes. Yes.
So guilt, so there's a map out there. It's by Dr. David Hawkins. It's the one that I teach and go by. Anybody can look him up. And it's called the map of consciousness. Where is our consciousness? So when you think of guilt, guilt is all the way down at the bottom. And he has labeled this with like a score. Guilt resonates at a 30, where love, which is way up here, is at like, I think 550 or 600. So when we're feeling this guilt consciously, we're all the way down here at the bottom. And so
We're at
again,
the lowest low.
yes, the only thing lower is shame. Shame is underneath guilt. So, and where we want to be at acceptance. We want to be at love. We want to be at enlightenment. We want to be at the higher levels of consciousness. And that's woman energy, right? Woman energy is always coming from a place of love. So she doesn't feel ashamed of her past. She doesn't feel ashamed of anything. She doesn't put shame on other people. She doesn't try to guilt people into doing things. She's coming from a place of love, acceptance, right? Because let's be real, people are people. So even these narcissistic people, there's no sense in hating them or blaming them or having ill feelings about them, because they're just playing their role that they came here to play. And so that's just wasted energy to hate them or blame them. We have to take responsibility for ourselves and rise ourselves up into the higher consciousness and be in that woman energy.
Now, Denise, you have this book called Empower the Woman Within, Stepping into Total Freedom. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of like a biography of where I was. You know, I start off with, you know, my childhood, because everything starts in childhood, and how I felt and the path that I took. And then it goes into me marrying at an early age, 21 years old, and the type of relationship that I had, and that the red flags were there early on, but I ignored them. And then it goes into, you know, how I transitioned, how I transformed, and now living this amazing life that I have now. And it's an inspiring story to show women, like, even if you come from this type of emotional abuse, financial abuse, this codependency relationship, it doesn't mean that you can't come out of it and live one amazing life, because that is what God has intended for each of us. There is when we suffer, it is resistance to God. So the more that we suffer, it simply means we're resisting to him. So when you come out of that and you heal that and you're living this amazing life, there's the connection. There's the true connection to love. And what is God? God is love.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Wow. I look, I took a lot of notes, Denise. I got some juicy stuff.
Yay.
I love the mother energy analogy with the, you're loving too much, you're giving too much, and you're doing too much, because it's true. It's our nature to do so much. And even when we've done so much, we still don't think it's enough, right? We want to do more. We want to give more. We want to love more.
Yes.
And so that, I love that analogy of the mother energy. You talked about clarity. You talked about making sure that we're very certain of what we want. Otherwise, we will receive wishy-washy result. I love that term. You coined it right. So I love that. What else? What other notes did I take? And we come from the power of love. God is love. So we are love. So why not love ourselves, right?
Yes.
So the narcissist preys on us who don't love ourselves.
Right.
Not enough. Not enough. Yes. Right. Not enough to stand in our power.
Yes.
And so when we pull that back and understand that, hey, I am love. This is me. I don't need to show you or prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt, if you know that, by giving you so much more. It doesn't work that way. So we have to find the clarity, and we have to stand within our power that we are already loved, and we're already loved. We are loved, and we are already loved. So I thank you so much, Denise, for dropping in.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing this. Now, help us. Do you have anything for our guests, anything upcoming that you'd like to share? Any workshops, retreats? What do you have for us, Denise?
I always have something coming up. What I would like to invite your guests to is my Facebook group that's called Life After Narcissism. And
what is it called, Denise?
Life After Narcissism.
Okay.
And in that Facebook group, I have a ton of training videos. I have a ton of posts, inspiring posts, education about the personality disorder, but also at the same time, what I like to focus on is where she wants to be. So I focus on the inspiring woman quotes and the things that I know that she's wanting to get to. So there's all of that. Plus, I do a lot of lives inside of the group. It's called Life After Narcissism. And I just want to invite your guests, if they're interested in that they can pop into the group and get everything that they need.
Yeah. I'm going to encourage, if you're sitting there, family, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, there has been, I've had some feeling about this for a while, right? If you're sitting there and you're thinking, it may or may not be this type of relationship, okay? These are bells. I want to start ringing, right? So this is something that you want to jump into. If you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, I've seen these signs before. I've seen them somewhere. Maybe not in your relationship per se, maybe in the friends or family members. Ding, 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 ding. This is a group that you want to go and attend, go and kind of read up about some things so you can get in the know, go and kind of sit in on some of these lives and some training so that you can get more clarity. This is a group that if you're even thinking, feeling, have actually seen blatant signs of maybe, Denise talked about that gaslighting, right? So if you feel like, wait a minute, I'm not crazy, I'm not losing my mind, what's happening here? And the other thing about narcissism is one, it's about power, and two, it's about abuse of that power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that domestic abuse stirs around this as well. So that pulling away from your loved ones, pulling you away from people, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a sign, people, family, friends. That is a sign that something is not right.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a difference between your spouse or your other half is pulling you away from people that are not serving you,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, right? Just like a gold friend would do, right? There's a big difference between that and tearing you apart from the people that love you for no reason at all.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so these are signs. I'm ringing the bell, right? It's called Life After Narcissism. It's a Facebook group. Join Denise. Listen to this replay. Share this replay, right, with someone that you think may be in trouble. Okay, because sometimes when you are in the storm, you don't see very clearly.
No.
So if you are that friend or that family member that's outside of the storm and you're looking in, be that true friend and that true family member and say, sweetheart, let me pull you to the side. Let's talk a little bit. And if you don't want to be the bearer of bad news, bring them to the group, show them around, and just leave them there. Run. They'll get it.
Yes.
Because these signs are signs for a reason. You can't wish them away. They're there. You can't take them away. They're already there. So, Ms. Denise, thank you so very much once again. I just love the information. I love the conversation. I enjoyed you thoroughly. Thank you so much. My biggest takeaway is that mother energy, because I see that a lot.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. And in doing so much and loving so much and giving so much, we tend to deplete ourselves, strip ourselves down to bare nothing. And so I've seen that quite a lot. So audience, friends, family members out there, I'm hoping, you know me, I take notes. So I'm hoping you took your notes as well. Denise has a book out. It's called, again, Empower the Woman Within, Stepping into Total Freedom. It's a little bit about her, a little bit about the reality of narcissism. And then she also offered her Facebook group, which I'm sure in the group there are more workshops, retreats, events, stuff taking place. So go in, check it out. Thank you once again. And congratulations, family, for showing up. You show up on a Wednesday morning, to be with us, me and my guests. And, we want to just congratulate you, because you might say, I don't want to watch this. But that a little CPR brings value. We bring guests to our show that's going to talk about what's happening in life, the things that we don't talk about on a regular, that are necessary for our growth, for our livelihood, for our abundance, for our living, period, right? So don't keep us a secret. Remember, it still takes a village. So like us, love us, share about our show, push someone upwards and forwards, and definitely pull someone up. Thank you so very much again on behalf of Win World Influencers Network. We want to thank you, and myself, of course, yours truly, Martha Dubois. And we want to remind you of one key thing. You, that's right, you, and you, and you over there. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved, and you are meant for so much more. The Creator has a plan for you. Don't you forget it. Mwah! Stay well until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Denise. Okay, I'm still here. Hold on. Let's see. Go this way. There we go. Okay. Hold on. I was still live. We are still live. We're going to stop the slide.